I feel like what you guys are touching on a little bit is like, and something I'm wondering is how to bring bargaining for the common good into something outside of education, into unions throughout the labor movement, and I'm wondering what you guys have to say, like how that could look tactically.
I'm thinking a lot about that right now because I do work for a union that represents state employees, and our state employees do everything from the PCA, the Public Pollution Control, right? They could do some serious advocacy work, right, around climate change. Like, how can that happen though? Like, what are those issues that we could bargain around, that they could be advocates for as professionals who do this day in and day out. Personally, I work a lot with direct care and treatment, so maybe it's the teacher in me, but I find myself drawn to our mental health system and the people who do that care, and those members of mine who work in facilities and experience so many similar things, just so many similar things as teachers, and I'm trying to think through, like, how do we start talking about this, and like, how can we use our collective power and work with mental health community to say, here are some things that need to be changed. And sometimes it doesn't look like a contract, it looks like us going into meetings and saying, yeah, we do want to talk about, like, how many vacancies there are, but what we really want to talk about is the fact that these treatment plans aren't happening, and the treatment plans, when they're not happening, are impacting the care of the people who can't get discharged and back in the community and live their lives productively, right? Like, so how do we, like, it is learning, like, it is a new way of thinking for a lot of people, but those are the ways that I see it kind of playing out in a non-education area.
So a week ago, several thousand custodians had a one-day strike and then threatened an open-ended strike and got what they were demanding in terms of their employers using environmentally friendly materials. And people have called it the first ever strike for climate justice. And those were mostly immigrant and certainly black and brown workers in SEIU 26. So, pushing the envelope about what can you use collective bargaining to address, and not backing off when management says, well, there's no history of unions being able to ask for these kinds of things.
They said
if
that
you're big
to us.
enough, strong enough, you can make them.
They said that to St. Paul. When we opened bargaining, they said you can. We said we can and we will. And then we said we wanted smaller class sizes, and they're like, you can't ask for that. That's managerial prerogative. We asked for it anyway. And we stayed up 24 hours.
We got it.
Can I share another model too that's rising, because like you said, labor is changing and how it looks, especially for college students that's going into increasingly precarious employment situations of like contracting. You don't get to have representation in a lot of work that you go into immediately after college. And so there's been a lot of formations of what's called worker centers, which are nonprofits or political nonprofits that have essentially formed out of doing some of the worker rights advocacy. A good example is say Tool in Minneapolis, AWA, which came about from East African immigrants also experiencing racism within their job sites, also seeing that being correlated to degraded pay, and them partnering with unions to then push their respective issues forward. So again, like climate justice, what does it look like to actually center like prayer time during a warehouse shift, like at Amazon for Muslim workers? So we've seen these worker centers also bubbling up. There's one at the U of M that's forming too. So yeah,
that's true.
I think there's a hand back there. I don't know if we. Oh, sorry.
I think as for where you guys could reach out to unions, I mean, they do a ton of organizing trainings.
Yeah.
They are in the business of getting future workers trained in organizing. And one really good place to start is organizing around elections and getting youth voter turnout at high rates. Traditionally, this population in front of me doesn't vote at the rate that they should. So organizing, just practicing first with elections, knowing that there's a for sure end date, and it won't last forever, because these things can
That's a
last
good
forever.
idea.
And then organizing in untraditional areas. If we see in Silicon Valley, tech workers are starting to unionize as they've been exploited by large management corporations, and so anything can be unionized if the workers agree to it. And so pushing the envelope of areas of workforces that traditionally haven't been unionized to unionize.
One thing I would, and I agree with the broadening the scope of labor activity, because it can have a huge impact what you guys are trying to do. But I also think we also have to make sure that we don't backslide on our pensions as an old person, for instance. My daughter's 30 years old, she'll have no pension. And the stock market just crashed by 26% the past 2 days. So we can't count. So I think that if you want to diversify your teaching staff and continue having education as a pathway for folks to become economically more powerful, because that's what it is. I was a first generation college student. Nobody went to my college until I went to Macalester in my family. It's had a huge impact on my life, education and being involved in education. I still think the Federation and the unions have to keep their eyes on the prize. That's a huge prize.
Absolutely.
The fact that there's a tenure system, that I can't just willy-nilly decide I don't like you and adios, right? As well as, because that's what I've been trying to do with my own staff, is build those young teachers, particularly teachers of color, so that they are in positions of economic security. And so I don't think we can forget that.
No, we can't, and there's always a tension there. I mean, there's definitely a tension there of like resources and how much staff and time and energy a union puts towards organizing, puts towards contract enforcement, puts towards some of those bread and butter issues, and we feel that in staff, and it is, you can't let go of those things, because you're right, because that's what that you do build, like you said, an economic stability that is a hallmark of.
And that's how you keep membership.
And
in this era, it's all about keeping membership.
And St. Paul, even as, you know, we had a lot of stuff going on in the country with the economy, we never took a freeze. That was what we committed to. Because once you take a freeze, that affects that the longevity in terms of your earning. And so we have never taken a freeze, and that's kind of been our policy. So we don't forget about that.
It's
but
a yes
right,
and. Yes and.
Correct.
Yes, we need those things, and the way that we're going to build and draw in more members and power is organizing. And when more people are at the table, it's harder to cut our health care. When more people are behind us and our membership, you guys have like 90-some% membership, and ours is lower. And we tell people, like, you can't be taken seriously as an organization if we're not all in. And so you have to have yes and on that for sure.
I think that's like a pretty powerful point about bringing more people to the table. That goes right into the theme of bargaining with the common good. And I think it's a good point to end on, because we're pushing up against time. So thank you to our panelists for coming. Thank you, Robin, for helping us. Give us so much guidance. Peter for hosting.
One more round of applause for the team that put this festival together.
Also, Brian is tenure now.
Oh!